Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the Sex Ed for You podcast, where research meets reality.
This is a podcast for people who want to date and have great sex that is safe, fun, and enjoyable.
We desire to empower our listeners to make informed decisions that lead to values-based living. I am Lauren. I am a certified holistic sexuality educator and the owner of Sex Ed for You.
And I am Holland, and I am our chief culture and content coordinator, and I have so much fun. I don't even know. I don't even have words.
So this is how this went down. So we're kind of like trying to catch up our podcasting schedule because Holland went home and visited family in Texas a couple weeks ago. And so we're podcasting on a Saturday, which is very odd for us. But I have a break in between clients, and she was like, could we do this now? So it is a Saturday morning. And Holland just came bursting in the front door. It was like, I have things to tell you, but I will tell you in the chairs. I was like, okay. So here we are. Okay, so what just happened?
So I went to our favorite coffee shop to pick
out.
up some coffee for us. We love you. It's delicious. Lauren's matcha, my whatever variety of black coffee, and it's so good. Anyway, okay, so I'm sitting there, and it's so chaotic. And let me just say that this morning, I was like, should I go to the bakery where I work so that I can get us some food, and I could probably just go back behind the counter and make our own drinks, and it would just be so fast. Boom, boom, boom. It's literally on the same road as this other shop. And I was like, no, I really want to go to this place. I really want to go to this place. I was like, I don't know why. It's weird. And so I park my car and I run into this other place. And so, and they are so busy. They are booked and busy. And so I'm like standing in line. I'm like, oh, should I just go? Like, should I just go to Lauren's? Because it's already like 9:58. Supposed to be there at 10. It's so busy. But then I saw one of my coworkers and I was like, hey, da da da. And so we talked for a little bit. They are just so booked. So I put in our order. I'm like, whatever, it'll be fine. Text Lauren and I sit down and I start reading my fanfic because that's what I'm currently reading.
Is it in a book or is it a phone?
It's on my phone.
Okay,
like on just my little Safari browser. It's on AO3 for the girlies that know. So I'm just reading and then someone comes up to me and she goes, is your name Holland? And I was like, yes, it is. And she goes, my girlfriend and I listen to the partnership podcast and we just love the work that y'all do. And I was like, what? What is happening right now? It literally, like, I didn't know what to say. I just started like blushing and she was really attractive too. So I didn't know what to do. And then her girlfriend was over there. So I just was like, hello. Hi. Like, I don't know what to say or do. And I was just like, literally like, I felt out of body. I just was so awkward because I didn't know what to say. But it was so cool. It was like the coolest moment ever. And
why?
Because they were just so kind. And her name was Molly. I don't know if I can say that, but Molly was really nice. And yeah, she was just like, we love what y'all do. And I used to be from here and we're back in town for the weekend. And we just saw you and we were like, that has to be Holland. I was like, holy crap, people know me. And so I think it was like, because I struggle so hard with realizing that people actually listen and watch and like participate in the things that we put out. Because like, I think you get to see like clients and like, I feel so behind the scenes, which is so okay with me.
And it's actually what you're designed to do.
Yes.
Like the way you're designed to put wisdom out into the world, you're doing a lot of. And
so when this happened, I was like, oh my God, like people know who I am. It was really cool because she was like, more than anything, just was like, I love the work that you do. And it's been so helpful for our relationship. I think they listen to the partnership podcast primarily. And so they were just like, it's been so helpful for us and our relationship. We've learned to communicate and like all these things. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I just had no words. And I think I just sat there and smiled so big and just like laughed and was like, ah.
What is it like to be recognized for work that feels aligned with you?
Oh my God, the coolest thing ever. It's like, holy shit. Like, this is like the reason I wanted to, I don't want to be recognized, but
Yes, but we talk about human design on here all the time, y'all, but like for Holland to be a projector, and what she is meant to do is to like project wisdom in, right? To foresee like this this is the wisdom to share with the world, and this is how it should be done, these types of things. And so it is really important to her makeup, how she was designed by God, Goddess, Universe, that she be aligned with like what she really is to do in the world. And oh my God, it's not fame. It's someone saying, hey, the wisdom that you help put out in the world has changed my life.
It was incredible.
Wait, tell the audience about the text you got the other day, the one that you screenshotted to me. Yeah, because I so agree with that person. And we've talked on this podcast before of kind of surrounding us with people who see the us that we are and that we want to be. And allowing feedback from those folks. And I was just so happy that there's people in your life who say the same things that I say. But yeah, you screenshotted to me. Yeah. What did you screenshot?
So one of my roommates from college is just such a steadfast friend. I've spoken about her before. She's just such an incredible person. She's so supportive. She's so kind. And she will reach out to me and kind of ask, just as friends do, like we'll just like talk about our lives. Yeah. And I try to always be like, do you want advice or do you just want me to be there for you? And it's
one of our favorite phrases around these parts. Because not everybody is ready for the types of opinions or ideas or thought that we would so readily offer.
I don't know if I did that this time, to be honest, but I gave advice. I think she did ask for advice. It was about a relationship. And so I just sent like a voice memo of kind of responding to everything that she had sent to me, because we voice memo. It's so much easier than calling. If you have long distance friends, use the voice memo, because then they can just listen to it when they have capacity. It's the best. Anyway, I responded, and then she sent a text that was like, Holland, if you don't get your master's in psych or whatever the fuck you need to like become a psychologist, then like I don't know what to do. Like the world needs you as a therapist. And I was like, thank you so much. It really even that text, like it just like re-solidifies what I already know. And I think that's what's so affirming about it. Yes. Because I've been told incredible things about me before, not to be egotistical.
No,
but
I hope we all do.
People are often telling me like, you are so good at customer service. You are so good at being a barista. You are so good at, whatever, insert this. And I'm like, thank you so much. But like, when it comes to like, Holland, you need to go get your master's and become a therapist. I was like, oh, like it's different. Because that is what I feel like called to do. So it's in a different way. Like when people are telling you you're so good at this thing and you don't really enjoy the thing, it's like, okay. But because I feel so drawn to becoming a helper, it was really cool to hear that, especially from someone who's seen me she's seen me really go from like this very people-pleasing, happy-go-lucky sorority girl to who I am now. And so she's been able to be there for almost like every step of the ride. And it's just been really cool that through all of that, she's affirming this love that I have for helping people. So yeah,
it's so cool. Yeah, you were kind of mentioning this the other day with your side job that helps pay the bills right now, that kind of everybody got talking about, like, what do you want to do? These types of things. And that it's a funny experience for you to be like, yeah, kind of already doing it. Like, and yeah, it's crazy. May the world know, may they see through you that it can happen. That if we truly drop into what is it that I want to do with my life, and ask ourselves those types of big needs, wants, desires questions. And then we reach out to potential possibilities that we could possibly do work that we love to do. It might not be easy. Y'all, what you don't see is the work we've been doing behind the scenes over the past few weeks. We's tired. We are about to go crazy. But it's beautiful. And it's all for this greater purpose that is aligned with both of us. But you put yourself there, my friend. Thanks. You did that.
I tried.
You did that.
Okay, so flip that. I would love to know, and I bet the followers and the audience would love to know, how did you make that first step into because I think my story is very different than yours.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually, this is a great conversation because, I mean, people ask me all the time. I think the easy answer is I was in maternal health for a decade, and that was a natural conduit to sexual health. That's not really the truth. It is true in that it gave me a wealth of field experience prior to coming into this work that I will always be thankful for, right? I had worked with a ton of vulvas and been present for a ton of childbirth experiences, worked with a ton of people in female bodies, worked with so many dynamics, partnership dynamics when working with like postpartum depression and stuff. So the field work was absolutely important to the work that I do now. But I think the thing that really transformed was the life experience, the lived experience I went through of walking through a divorce and then going, well, wait, I don't know who I am as a sexual being. And I felt like there was this like void of knowledge. And the way I'm put on the earth, slightly different than what Holland is put on the earth to do, is like I am made to learn something for myself and then teach it and share about it. And so as I was going through this learning discovery process on my own, people started asking, well, oh my God, what are you reading? And I would just share. And a friend of mine at one point teased me. She was like, you should just take a picture of your book list, because you could literally track your growth. Like this friend from college, I'm sure, like can see your growth. People could see my growth. But then it got to a point where I started to feel really uncomfortable because folks were asking me for kind of advice, but I felt equipped only with my experience of a white girl coming out of purity culture, right? Like I lived my experience. I didn't know anything else. So that's when it kind of started to like nibble at me. Then when I met Trey and was in a sexual partnership that was flourishing, that's when I ran into discomfort with health. Like for the first time in my life, I experienced what it was like to have a trauma addiction and be missing it. I don't hardly talk about this section, but there was a major section of our partnership early on where I was so uncomfortable in homeostasis.
Right.
Because my nervous system had been so used to being jerked around by my ex-husband that I couldn't believe that Trey was just happy with me, that I didn't need to do anything more. So I had to do work on that. And then I had 2 experiences in sexual encounters with him where I dissociated. And they were horrifying. And I went out of body, and it was really scary. And through those 2 experiences, I bought a ton of books. And one of them was Healers on the Edge about somatic sex education. And I was like, what is this world? Like, what? There's people who work in this type of field? So I gobbled that book up, which then led, this is how my journey always happens, like then to another book, then to another book. And then I was like, is there a school for something like this? But then Trey went away and COVID hit. I mean, it was just a weird time. And then Trey sent a text one day out of the blue when we were far apart and not even dating, was like, how's that sexuality education business going? And I was like, fuck, like this man who is not even in my life anymore cares so much about my dreams. Do I care as much about my dreams? So that day I went home and Googled sexuality education programs and found the Institute for Sexuality Education and Enlightenment, set up an interview, and then started school in that January. And at that point I was still in maternal health, and I thought I would just weave it into my maternal health work, because I thought, well, sexual health, reproductive health, it's all so much of the same. But school blew my mind open to, this is information that people have a human right to know. And I just felt the calling. And it's, for me, I feel it in my sacral. And if you had asked my sacral, do you want to stay in maternal health anymore? It would have been like, do you want to build a business about sexual health and romantic flourishing and intimacy and relationships? It would have been like,
Can you clarify for the audience? Because I think both of us being such human design nerds, we can sometimes talk about it without really defining it. What is the sacral to you? What does that mean? What does that feel like? And where does it come from? How do you trust that wisdom?
It's interesting because I was rereading a ton of stuff about it yesterday, because Holland and I are building out a really big infrastructure. And I've felt a lack of clarity about some of it. And I wanted to remember like how I'm made, because since I am the owner and operator of this business, it matters. Like does the software that we purchase and invest in align with our values? And so I was trying to check back into me. And so I was reading again about the sacral, and the sacral is really interesting. It's a chakra system. So, right, we have like our root chakra at the base, and then our sacral would be kind of in our womb or in our pelvic floor type of thing. And for someone who has sacral authority, which is me and a lot of people, a lot of us do, we are very much guided by an or an And if this is you probably know exactly what I'm saying. Holland is guided by an emotional authority. So she will have feelings about whether she is supposed to do something by her feelings or not. And it is wild because it is very different than me. And she felt that she was supposed to come to Lynchburg. And at the same time, I felt in my body like, should Holland come here to Central Virginia? And but it wasn't an emotional feeling. It was this very like guttural feeling. The thing that can be very confusing is that it's not a mental thing. And it can confuse people who work with me, such as Holland. It can confuse my husband. It definitely confused staff members of mine before. It feels like a pull for me. I'm very like body oriented. So for me, it feels like a tug. It feels like, if I was to resist it, it would be harder to go on living the way I had been living. It literally feels like somebody's got a cord in my pelvic floor. And it feels very pulley. And I just knew. Like I literally remember, and I often just know. It is like a knowing, and it doesn't connect to up here. For instance, when Trey wanted to launch the partnership podcast, I just kept feeling And we recorded like 30 episodes before I was like, And I'm built to respond. So that also has a lot to do with it. But I finally had a client who came in one day in tears and said, I just can't, I'm not doing good enough. Like I keep messing up. You give me these tools, but I can't get them perfect. And I thought, yeah, I know what Trey and I need to do now. You need to see partners who love each other, who are committed to growth, but who are far from perfect, who can learn a new modality and then forget it and then go back to it, who are also forming new neural pathways. You just need to see authenticity because I don't think we've been modeled that. So all of a sudden I had the why, the like fire in my belly for the partnership podcast. But whereas you two can just see the benefit of the partnership podcast. Like when the first client came in from it, Trey was like, and I was like, see, I couldn't see it. I can't perceive in like you and he can. So yeah, that sacral pull came in like 2021, mid like May. I remember where I was on a beach in California. And I was like, it's time to wind down. And that did not feel good. It didn't feel good. I think there's a lie that we're told that kind of when one dream replaces another, that it becomes easy to leave behind a older version of yourself, a calling. It's not. It sucked. It really sucked. Those might have been 6 of the hardest months of my life. And I was simultaneously finishing school, creating a brand, dreaming up a business, and still running a nonprofit and figuring out a succession plan for my nonprofit, and mourning identity of who I had been in the community, mourning the fact that now I was going to be moving from kind of this like the mother of my town to a sex educator and what would people think. And it was scary, but it was just something I knew I had to do. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I mean, that's the funniest part. But I really trusted in my desire to share this type of information with folks. Yeah.
I also find it so interesting how you had almost the same exact moment I did. And I'm curious if that's a common theme in our field of stumbling upon something accidentally and going, wait, is this like a career?
Yeah.
Is this like something that I can do? Because I don't know. That's just really interesting to me. That stuck out to me in your story. Because I had the exact same moment where I just remember sitting in a classroom can literally like almost transport my body back to that chair, and just that feeling of what? Why had I not known this? Why was this not made apparent to me that this could be an option?
To be fair, we've kind of invented this career.
That's fair.
I don't know if it really was a career before we did it.
Fair point.
Because our modality, our practice, our models that we are actively developing are kind of all ours.
But they also feel so true to me that it's like, why, like, of course this is a thing. Like, to me, it's like, what else would there be?
Right. But we should just all be very thankful to the universe, because I don't know how. I mean, I do, thankfully, right? And this is why we've talked about this in Hemlock before, our monthly membership program, this idea of when we are in our truest truth, we start to illuminate a light that draws others to us. And when I'm like, I don't know how we found each other, I'm like, yes, I do. I got on Instagram and shared a reel that ended up going viral that was literally just a
stitch.
Oh, yeah. It was not fancy, but it was me just being in my authenticity and sharing. And I think we forget how powerful it is just to be ourselves in the world, because then others who are looking for a career that's exactly like the thing I'm building. It's interesting because I've had, when I first launched the business and since then, I would say once a month, I have somebody say like, how did you find this field? Or how did you're doing what I want to do and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that we've built something really special.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I think there's the forward-facing stuff that we do, but the stuff that makes that actually successful, y'all, is everything that we do on the back end. It's the fact that Holland was like, let's podcast on Saturday so that I can get it up, so that that administrative juicy stuff that we actually both like to do is what makes the business actually run. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's not more of a field, is that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Because most of what we do isn't this.
I know it's what y'all see.
Yeah. And it seems like it.
Yeah. And I do see a lot of clients. Mm-hmm. And yet there's a lot of time spent on the administrative end of making this business hum.
Right.
And making it life-giving for both of us, and constantly reassessing where is it getting out of alignment and how do we come back to center. I think that's what people see. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the light now that draws folks to the podcast or to the Instagram content or to the sessions with me or to workshops that we do or to your blog. It's like, oh, yeah, all the behind-the-scenes stuff matters. And for folks who are like, oh, what you do is what I want to do, I'm like, don't forget all the other stuff. Like, you see what I do, but there's a lot of other stuff. But it truly brings me joy, though. Like, and that's, I love building businesses as much as I love the client work that we do. And that's just, thanks, Mama Jesus, for that, because I think that's a unique little combo.
Yeah. We definitely need it. I need it. I need it to propel me, because I tap into your energy for that, which is why it's so helpful for me to just be around you when we do things, when we do businessy things. Because it can be so hard for me to sit in the nitty gritty things. Yeah. I love kind of like the overhead administrative work where I can be like, we need this, we need to do this. This could be helpful. Like, I like to almost kind of look from bird's eye view. I say that so often. That is my favorite perspective. I want to be high up in the clouds looking at everything and make decisions that are connecting things. Like, I love that type of work. So it's really hard for me when it's like, I need to do just like really mindless, tedious work. Yep. So it's great for me to be around you because I can tap into your energy and your desire to do the tiny little things that make the cogs turn. And I struggle to do that on my own.
Yeah. And I think what you're hearing all is really interesting, because in an ideal world, Holland would only get to do that. And so we have lots of conversations about And yet there's a business that has needs right now. And so y'all heard that on the podcast episode where we talked about renegotiating her contract, is that I always want her to feel this understanding from me that I know it's not her favorite thing in the world. And yet when new systems are being implemented, we need like some help in that grunt work. And what we're trying to do is implement more and more systems so that that doesn't have to be her job, so that she can click a thing, create an automation that this all happens. Because I agree. I think when we went into Asana and kind of like you bird's eye viewed, like when things needed to be done, it's something you have a specific like knack for. And I don't mind doing the grunt work. I enjoy it. What I have to watch out for is I can almost enjoy it so much that I'm not doing the thing that I'm supposed to do. Because I was reading again about our profile lines. And in human design, I am a profile line of 2-5 and Holland is a 2-4. And what's interesting is that 2 is very much a hermit. She and I both love alone time and like being with our thoughts, her reading her fanfic, me reading whatever the fuck I'm reading. And it is good for us. And yet with my generator power, I agree. I think it's something that can almost be like an infusion in you and give you kind of this like rev.
I use my hermit time to rest. Yes. And I think you use hermit time to rest sometimes also. But I think you also can.
I just don't need as much rest.
Yes.
Like just honestly.
Whereas I yesterday spent from the time I got home from my bakery job to the time I went to sleep, I was like, phone off, no one contact me. I am just going to sit here and stare at the sky because I was so tired mentally.
Yep.
Like I was just like, I just can't.
Treya's entire day is like that.
Yeah.
And I think so does my kid. Learning to love our people who need that is a real gift, y'all. You'll save yourself lots of time.
Yeah.
Because then when they're firing, there's so much joy when they've had that rest time.
I get frustrated when people try to pull me out of it. Like,
it's
in like such a kind-hearted way. Like there are people throughout my life, and like honestly, most people in my life, that are like, oh, you're so mentally exhausted. Like, do you want to talk about work? Do you want to talk about your relationships? Can I make you happier? Do you want to go dance? Do you want to go do you want to watch TV? And I'm like, oh my God, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And it's so interesting. Because I think it is just like a disconnect between the types of people of like, you're trying to do for me what you would want. And that's so kind and lovely. However, I just want to be alone. And sometimes I just want to be a bitch. And so I know that you need to be away from me because otherwise I'm going to bite you in a bad way. Like it's not. And it's really funny to kind of see just how differently people are made. It's so beautiful.
It is a reason for celebration, honestly. I was reading about this 2-5 profile. Only 10% of the population has it.
Oh, wow.
So not only am I a hermity, but I also have that projector line. And so people will think, oh, this is what she will be for me, which has happened my entire life. And it's good to remember, okay, that means 90% of the population doesn't understand me.
Yes.
Okay. Like, so it's not like shake my finger at the population. It's to say, how do I need to know myself more so that I can share with someone, this is what I actually need in this moment. And I mean, even my best friend several months ago was like, I have never heard you say that. When we were talking about, she was saying, I would just wish you could share with me how you feel. And I said, I don't know. Let me back you up. I have a completely empty solar plexus. Again, another human design thing, y'all, but I am so undefined. It is very hard for me to find my feelings. And often what I need to find my feelings is alone time. But since I am humming on my own little generator, I sometimes will be like, yeah, I can do that thing. And then I get to a moment and I turn off. It's like, it's done. And I couldn't tell you that I'm overwhelmed until all of a sudden I'm feeling overwhelmed. And learning to touch base with that. Learning to say, most likely I'll run out of capacity. And most likely I'm going to need 2 solid hermit days a week. And if I don't get that, we all better watch out. Isn't that good?
There's so much power in knowing yourself. Like, I think that's what I've loved so much. And I think all of us love it so much to some degree. I love human design for it. You introduced me to human design.
There's Enneagram.
There's Myers-Briggs. There's horoscopes. There's, however, I don't know. I feel like
Clifton Strengths. There's, you name it. Whatever modality connects to you more.
And it's so cool to watch people learn to identify themselves within these modalities, because then it's not about the label. I don't think. I don't think it's about being, I don't know. I don't even think it's subscription to a belief system. I think it's truly about being able to understand yourself more. It's never been about, I want to believe in human design. For me, it's, oh my God, I finally understand this weird, quirky thing about me that has always been there and I've never understood it. And now I get this perspective that makes so much sense. It's not about, I don't know, about believing something, because I think people get caught up in, you believe horoscopes are real. You believe Enneagram is real. It's not about that. It's not even a little bit. It's not a subscription service. It's literally, it's like, I already knew this. I just didn't have words for it.
Yes.
And someone else has put this into words, and now I can identify with it and understand myself better for it. And I can go through my life with better clarity and better purpose because I know this about myself. Mm-hmm. And it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I love that you said it's not, we don't subscribe, and it doesn't become a new religious orthodoxy, right? It's not a new dogma, because I think the temptation would be to lean into something as a black and white. Mm-hmm. And I think there's more nuance, right? Any typology is going to have its limits. Any modality is going to have its limits. And I think it's up to us as human beings to understand too that our containers matter so much, right? That we are, that biology of belief book that I read a couple of months ago about how genetics are truly influenced by our surroundings, by our environments. For us to just come to an understanding of that and learn through different tools how to protect it better. Yeah, I listened to, there's some podcast. Yeah, and it was all Myers-Briggs is what they started out with. And it was just fascinating to me. And it was just a couple, and they would talk about business and functioning, and they would randomly throw in a different typology. And I loved that for a long time because it gave me words to explain my INFJ self. And I have clients who still know that modality better. And so it's really fun for me too, because the way I work is if a client comes in with a richer understanding of one of these other ones, I've dabbled in mostly all of them. I can speak your language. And that's really helpful. Yes. So I think also doing this for love of all humankind is really cool too. Because maybe human design isn't their thing, but Enneagram might be, or Clifton Strengths, or Myers-Briggs, or any of them. It's just a fun way to love people.
It is. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
The other day I was sitting on the couch with a friend, and we were just, every time we hang out, it turns into hours and hours and hours of talking. And it's so much fun. And so we were sitting on my couch at my apartment, and we were just talking about Lord knows what. And I was like, I don't know. I think, let me Google it. Let me find out. Because we were talking about something. And I was like, let me confirm. And she looks at me and she goes, "You're a wing 5, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, I am. I am a 4-wing 5. How did you know?" And she said, "My husband does the same thing. He has to, he wants to know. He wants to Google it." Whereas I'm like, sure. And it was just so fun because for her, she was able to identify this piece of me that not only helps her understand me and understand my desire and lust for knowledge, it connected me to, I love this specific type of characteristic that is also in my husband. These are cool. This is a characteristic that she is drawn to. And that is so cool to know about yourself, to say, not only do I know this about you, but I know that I am drawn to that. And that is such a cool piece of attraction theory too.
Yes. Well, and that we don't need to make others more like us. Right. What I also noticed in that moment is that friend just kind of beaming at what some could roll their eyes at. We don't need to know. It's no, what you're saying is you don't need to know. And what if we just let the other be themselves? What if we just start celebrating the individuality of humanity? And then we're like, aw, my husband does that too, right? Yeah. It starts to let people simultaneously be themselves and be connected. And yeah, Enneagram just kind of changed my life in that. Like, oh my God, my whole life I'd been hoping that people would be more like me. And I am an Enneagram 3 and a generator in human design. And that is like, oh my God, the most exhausting thing for most people to be around.
The word that popped in my brain was like strive. Just Enneagram 3, generator, just strive.
We're just going.
Yeah.
And I used to think so poorly of people. And it just breaks my heart because I was like really looking down on them.
And I have that in me too. I'm a 4, so I can wing to 3, and I do the same thing. I can like, fully understand, especially when I was working in a coffee shop back in College Station, Texas, and I was managing, and I would have students as like workers, and they would be not my staff, but like I was in charge or whatever. And I would have the same kind of like judgmental, like, you just don't work hard enough. Yeah. You just don't get it. And it was,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
We grow. We grow. I am so thankful for modalities for that, for the piece of humble pie. That's like, who do you think you are, Lauren? Like, yeah, my Enneagram 5 friends are some of my favorite people, the researchers, the deep divers, these types of things. And it is a gift to humanity, learning how Enneagram 1s have this inner critic that's constantly in their mind. God, I'm glad I figured that out before Trey and I ended up partnered together, because that sweet boy is so critical of himself. He doesn't need me to critique. He needs gentler ways to be shared with feedback of something that was maybe hurtful to me, because most of the time, I would say every time, he's already critiqued himself. And to know that they live with this constant critic in their heads should break our hearts. It doesn't excuse behavior. None of these modalities excuse behavior. That's the other cool thing. But God, it allows me to be much more compassionate. That's nicer.
It just really opens the floor to deeper communication, especially within partnership, even friendship or workplace, just in any interpersonal relationship. It opens the floor to deeper communication because you have a better understanding of the person that you are communicating with. Yeah. And we fall into such a deep pit of self when we are just projecting like, well, why aren't you like this? Why aren't you the same way I am? Why didn't you do this way? Instead of saying, well, why did you do this way?
So I'm back in school for this embodied intimacy and relationship coaching certificate, which, full circle, when I mentioned that book that I studied when I had my dissociative episodes, Healers on the Edge, it was the very first book that was mentioned in school. And I was like, holy shit.
I love that.
Wow, talk about synchronicity again.
Invisible string,
yeah. Like, oh, I'm where I'm supposed to be. That's neat. You all learned from this woman who wrote this book. Wow. So anyway, accident. And what we were talking about in a class the other day is about this idea that we are not biologically wired to attach to our lovers and partners. We are biologically wired to attach to our offspring. Cool. Keeps them safe. Keeps the world populating. What we attach to when we first meet someone, it's just made me think, because of what you were saying, is our projection. In the season of limerence, the 1.5 to 2 years, we are falling in love with our projection of the other person.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it? Yeah. So it behooves us all to learn in that time our lover's human design, our lover's Enneagram, our lover's horoscope, the astrology makeup of them, whatever suits your, like, float your boat. I don't care. So that we can harness the power of limerence in that 1.5 to 2 years and start to create rituals and connections and attachments to this other person, so that when the honeymoon phase is over, the rose-colored glasses fall off, we have truly learned who the other is.
Yes.
Because if we're not careful, it's happened to so many of us, that time period falls away and we're like, who the fuck are you? When did you become like this? And it's like, I've always been like this. And what was so fascinating about this class that we were taking is he said, no, we're not biologically wired to attach to a lover, to a partner, but we are biologically wired to survive. And we survive better in pairs. Coolest thing. So even if all this connections stuff that we formed with this other is pretend, it's pretend, which means we can continue to pretend and continue to evolve as partners, continue to create our own forms of connection that feel secure and attached to us. And it makes a lot of sense to get to know our other partner so that we're not then threatened by, for instance, Trey's tons of alone time that he needs, your tons of downtime. That doesn't need to threaten me. But if we're just operating on my projection of who Trey is to me, my projection of who Holland is to me, that's going to be pretty disheartening when everything falls apart. It's so cool to say, oh, no, we can continue to build secure attachments, you and me and Trey, based upon getting to know one another better and saying, how would support actually look for you? And for you to say alone, being still. Okay, cool. Right on our retreat. I think did we talk about this? Holland literally took a nap and I was like, yay, I will support alone time. You nap there. And I was working and learning, but we were saying post retreat, I've never felt my nervous system so at homeostasis because usually I overfunction to make sure everybody's having a good time. But I relinquished that and trusted that Holland would advocate for self as she did. May I take a nap? And just cool that modalities could nurture our attachments with romantic partners. Yeah, after these projections start to fade away, because they will. They just will. We've all had it happen. The projection of a friend that we thought was going to be something. And we're like, oh yeah, this isn't, I'm learning the real you. Yay. This is not as meant for me as I thought it was. It's just cool.
God, there's so much power in understanding. And I think we almost gloss over even the definition of true understanding and take it at such face value of yeah, I understand that person. I've known them for however long but in reality of truly letting yourself sit in another person's shoes is more than just, yeah, I know their past, or yeah, I know they like alone time. It is so much more than that. And we do ourselves and other people a disservice when we shallowly get to know people. It is so important to, or at least to me, I think, to be in deep relationship with people and truly understand and gather information on the people that we value. And because I think that's how you value someone. I think that's how you show love in a healthy way, is understanding them at a level that doesn't just service you, but at a level that services them and puts them at the forefront of your understanding, because it's more than just, it's just so much deeper.
That takes me back to something I wanted to talk about when you were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast, being recognized and being thanked for your work with Sex Ed for You this morning at the coffee shop. I was thinking about before, when you've been recognized, you're doing work, but it is in service of the other, right? It's an action. I'm deep in Wheel of Consent because I'm about to go to a professional training and I'm so excited. But service is an action. Taking is an action too. It is still doing. And I think what's so neat about the work that you're getting to do now is it is for you. Betty Martin continually says, who is it for? Who is this for? And you and I, when we were working on our mission statement, we shared with the audience that it's a big deal to us that first line is for us. What does this work provide for us? Because listen, y'all, if it's not providing us with something, most likely that we're going to burn out at some point because it's just going to be for other. There's great action that is done for other. Yay. But to be noticed for, wow, you look like you're thriving because you're doing an action for you. Yeah, it's work. and yet it's lighting you up. And I just thought, I wonder if that's like the difference here. Like, you've been noticed for service before. You're a great, great worker. Hooray. Like, we live in America.
I know, I was about to say the American life.
Right? Like, yeah, you work hard. Yay. But to be noticed for something that you take joy in. I love that phrase, take joy, because it's a taking action.
Yeah.
And we so seldomly honor consensual taking. But to take joy in our work is what I long for us and what I long for every human. But that takes an element of getting to know ourselves first. So then we can explain to something, because to explain to other who we are. So Holland was just saying, like, it's one of her deepest joys to get to know the other truly. But you can't get to know someone if they don't know themselves. And we always love to quote Adrienne Maree Brown of there's your work, my work, and our work. And I think we owe it to friends, to lovers, to partners, to know ourselves, to get to say, these are my personal needs, wants, and desires. These are my relational needs, wants, and desires. These are my sexual needs, wants, and desires. I was working with a client this morning, and they were saying that, like, they always thought that was selfish, right? Self-centered, egotistical. It's like, it's not.
It's not.
Because then we can start to show who we truly are to the other. And that's really cool. Feels like a good wrap-up place.
It is.
What do you think? Go ahead.
Yep.
Take it away.
Well,
Well.
what do we usually say? Oh, all of these are our lived experiences and opinions. Everything we say is, who knows?
Who knows?
Who really knows? If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comments down below, or you can email me at admin@sexedforyou.com. Follow us on Instagram at sex_ed_for_you. And if you would like to book a free consult and find out if you and Lauren would be a good fit, then you can go to sexedforyou.com/free consult and submit an application type vibe to get you in there, get you on the schedule. Anything else?
Just, yeah, you kind of said it, but you have a right to informed decision making and self-determination. And it's our hope that these types of accessible educational opportunities that we provide, like this and our Instagram content, encourage you to do your own research. Yeah, this is not like a gospel truth.
No.
These are just our thoughts and ideas in the world.
I feel like I need to insert the Hercules song, like the gospel truth song.
I always think of it in my head.
I might find that.
I've been on a Hercules kick.
I do love Hercules.
It's good music.
You know, my dad is dancing as Hercules in the local Dancing with the Stars back home.
What?
Yep.
Now?
Yep.
What? Okay. To be continued. I got to go meet with a client. You guys are the best.
Bye.